Folks, welcome in tonight. It is Wednesday the 26th. A lot going on. Welcome, as I said, to the late night on campus. I'll be your host tonight, Donnie Wrightside, along with my partner in crime, the big man on campus, at Jeff Nadu on Twitter. A lot of interesting stuff is going on tonight. We do have a special guest on deck. Big man, a lot going on for us. Draft is tomorrow night. We're from Philadelphia. We're excited about it. An expert's coming on to talk about with us tonight. How's it going? And tell us a little bit more.
Donnie, my man, what's up? Ed Feng will join us. I know we had some people talking on the show last night about Ed's whereabouts, what he's been up to. He's got some really cool things going on over his website. Obviously, if you know Ed, you know he's a stat guy. He's a guy that loves numbers, PhD from Stanford. So he's going to come on and talk to us about something he calls the wisdom of crowds angle, which we're going to chat about that with him, kind of chat about where certain guys will go, and we'll finish our mock draft tonight. So plenty to do. I know it's basically we're going to talk mostly about the playoff teams here and where they're going to go. So looking forward to it. But we do have some housekeeping to take care of first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, again, if you haven't followed us yet on Twitter, follow us at SBR Sports Picks. Always check out SBRodds.com. And certainly, if you like us, like we always, go over the YouTube channel right down there, bottom to the left, hit the subscribe button. It looks like about at least 50 more people just about, Jeff, signed up since we were on earlier today on the roundtable. So let's keep that number churning. Let's get to 30,000 as soon as we can. SBR Sportsbook Review, just hit the subscribe button. That way, when anybody comes on live on SBR, you get the alert right away. You can tune right in, get on the chat box, and we can certainly have a good time with it. What do you want to do tonight, big man? Get to a little baseball, cover some bases here?
Sure.
All right, let's get into it. And again, we've got some NHL action going on tonight, some NBA action. We'll get to that also. And then some draft coverage to take a look at. As Big Man said, we're going to go over 16 through 32 tonight, what we think. And I also picked out, I know Big Man did yesterday. I don't know if you have any other ones, Jeff. I have a couple of prop bets, which I'd like to get out. And we'll see if we can earn some money on that as well.
I also, Donnie, before, as draft is impending here, obviously, I will get into some late round picks to keep your eyes on, some guys that I think can help our football team and maybe help some other teams. Also, we'll get more deep into, I spent a lot of the day today, Donnie, going over team by team, late rounds, things like that. So, I think tonight will be a fun show, and we have no time limit, so let's run with it.
Let's do it. Let's get into some baseball action. Earlier today, if you tuned into the roundtable, under the gun, I did give out a play today on that, which was on the Cincinnati Reds. Smoke show, terrible play, gave it out. But we've been having some good luck here on Twitter and some of the plays that we have later on, which once we hit those over, I'm very superstitious. So a lot of you people know what I'm on, going with the video. I'm not even going to mention it until it's over at this point. But looking at that game, Jeff, Milwaukee at home, bats blazing again. Fun team to watch.
Yeah, they are. And they're a team that, I mentioned I didn't have much of a feel in this series. They're a team just mashing the ball right now. And, a team that I don't really want to get in front of. I know your angle was obviously made sense with the public money. But for me, Donnie, you had a collection of obviously rookie Davis and, that Brewers lineup. It wasn't successive cohesion by any means. So, yeah, a tough outing there. But hey, Brewers will cool off. Eric Thames, a bad time to get an injury. And you gotta think. Here's the thing about Eric Thames, Donnie, that you have to look at and say, well, has he been great? Yeah, but 11 home runs, Donnie, just 18 RBIs.
You got to start stacking the deck for the kid. I guess
right.
That's a little bit of a batting second as opposed to moving him back. But yeah, I agree with you on that.
I mean, that hurts. You're only, think if he had some people on base, which they're winning already, but it would be nice to get some of them later in the season, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely on that one. Yeah, that was over quick and painless. I know Cincinnati did threaten a little bit. I think at one point it's like 6-2 or 6-3. It had some men on base, but for all intents and purposes, Milwaukee was the correct play in that. And you got a nice line on that too, -123. It looks like it closed at Pinnacle. So if you did have Milwaukee, and I know majority of the public did, that's a great pick by the public there. Hey, I mean, they're going to win their fair share majority of games. That was absolutely the right play to take Milwaukee in that one. Another one I saw in the chat box, I forget who just said that there, but don't overthink it. Kansas City games, Jeff, just take the under.
Yeah, I took the under myself.
Yes, you did. Yep.
And, it got a little hairy at the end, but Yeah, I mean, Kansas City, I don't know. And I mentioned today, some people were kind of getting down on Jose Quintana. He's had some tough starts, but right now the White Sox are hitting in this series. They gave him a little bit of run support today, and you saw it helped. I mean, he only gave up, I don't even, did he even give up runs? I don't know if that was the bullpen or not, but this White Sox team, if they could just start to hit the baseball, they have the best team ERA, Donnie, in baseball, which I'm not sure many know that, but good bullpen, mostly a pretty good stable of arms. If they could start to hit consistently, they're going to be a tough out for teams. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think their lineup is as bad as people might think. But, yeah, the Royals are really bad. You have to wonder, I mean, who exactly do they have to face to win a game? I mean, Mike Pelfrey. I mean, who is it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's not even looking good. You bring up a good point there, Jeff. With the Chicago White Sox batting, Todd Frazier finally, after those mysterious illnesses for about a week, is starting to put a little bit of pressure on pitchers. Coming through in the clutch the last couple of days with some home runs, some RBIs there. Just got to get Melky Cabrera, going in that one. Saladino, I'm not really happy with him at the top of the lineup, but we'll see how that pales out. But yeah, I mean, when you have good starting pitching matched up with a bullpen ERA, which I believe they gave up a couple last night, but another really good outing, under 2 still at this point. That's phenomenal. That's going to keep you in every single ball game.
Yeah, it is. And, you wonder, I mean, what if Chris Sale was there? How much stronger would they be? Yeah, they're looking good. It's just, the hitting inconsistently is tough. But, who knows? They're going to be a tough out, especially if they continue that pitching the way it's been.
Yeah, hanging on there. I'll give an update on it. The Pittsburgh Pirates was my dog play of the night that I gave out on Twitter with the video. It was 6-3. As soon as it got on, I just wanted to turn it off. It's now 6-5 in the Pittsburgh game. But if you did see me tweet out earlier, I did hedge my bet in that one a little bit to make sure I got plus money either way around. But that's besides the point. If Pittsburgh can win this game, it's a lot more money than I would have won if the Cubs win this game. And I know a lot of people were riding on that with Pittsburgh. So let's go Pittsburgh, get a couple more outs, close this out. Let's get to the business.
Yeah,
there.
it's always tough having the Cubs, betting against the Cubs late in games. I mean, they seem like golden children against, when down in games. But we'll be rooting for you there for sure.
Yeah, moonshot on that one to make it 6-5. There is one out in the 8th inning, so hopefully they can get through and get to Watson and close that game.
By the way, at Dirty Diana, bad day in the Premier League. I had a fine day in the Premier League. I made money. I don't know if you had a bad day. What do you think about tomorrow's Manchester Derby? I like the over. I think it's a quick I think it's a game that's played forward. I think both teams are in interesting spots right now. The loser probably is out of the top 4. This is a big game. Obviously, rivals, same city. Manchester City has issues on the defensive end. They're not great on defense. And you look at Rashford in that lineup now for Manchester United. He's been really good up front. I think both teams will go for it tomorrow. I think it's a pretty high-scoring game. It should be pretty wild. 2-2 maybe, 3-2. Who knows? I don't really have much on the side. For me, it's an over. But check my video out in SPR. We did a video on Manchester City, Manchester United. I think that's an over game.
Shootout at, Progressive Field there. Cleveland and Houston. Bauer and McCullers go 7-6. I know Houston was clawing back to get in that one. A nice key piece of managing by Tito Francona, as we'll call him. Brought in the closer a little bit early in this one to shut the door in that. I believe in the 7th inning when Houston was threatening. Turned out to be a good move. They hang on 7-6 in that one.
Yeah, Cody Allen went 1 1/3, so he did go and get that last out in the 8th inning. Really nice job. He's a good closer, really underrated. They have a great bullpen. We know that. Brian Shaw, did give up 2 runs, but Andrew Miller, Cody Allen, really going to give you an effective bullpen. Yeah, Lance McCullers, Donnie, wasn't very good tonight. I mean, he gave up 5 earned runs over 5 innings. Got some strikeouts, but just really wasn't that effective tonight. Obviously, if you looked at the Houston Astros lineup, Noel Altuve, Carlos Correa has really struggled. So
Springer was out, I believe, as well, Jeff, right?
Correct. Yeah. George Springer was out also. So you had to figure at some point, they were going to lose a game. I didn't think it'd be tonight, honestly, with McCullers on the mound, but not a good performance tonight from him. Cleveland needed to get the job done here after last night. So nice win for the Indians.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's take a look at what just finishing up now. Vince Velasquez with a decent outing against the Marlins. He got helped out right away. A 2-0 lead by the Marlins. You look, it was another one of those, Jeff, picking on Velasquez a little bit, not sharp early, but Maikel Franco bails him out with a grand slam home run to make that 4-2. And the Phillies were really off and running at that point. The over hit obviously easily with a total of 8. It looks like it closed out 7.5. That number obviously goes to 11. And the Marlins, a short favorite in that one. Basically a pick 'em in that game. Can't fault you if you took the Marlins because, again, I'm not a huge Phillies backer, but they're starting to squeeze out wins, especially at home, Jeff.
Yeah, that's that was a weird game, Donnie. I mean, yesterday the total was 7 in the same game, same pitching matchup. Today it was 8. I didn't really understand. Did you understand that?
I'm guessing with yesterday, if they were factoring in, Jeff, they're going to play the game, windy conditions, rainy, you get that sloppy field, which wasn't really the case tonight. Maybe it bumps it up a little bit there.
Yeah, but nice win for the Phillies. Miguel Franco 2 grand slams this year. Good for them. Who cares? By the way, Donnie, not good. Good point by this thing we do. Daniel Hudson into the game for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So if you know anything about
Watson in the game, didn't they? I think they just made a pitching change. Did Hudson? I think started the inning, which is now wide 6-5.
Yeah, you're right. My fault. So Hudson obviously comes in and doesn't get the job done, I guess you could say. But we are all surprised by that. This thing we do is blocked by Daniel Hudson, I believe. Huddy 41 hates this thing we do.
A little Arizona Diamondback action hate there.
Oh, yeah. Back when he was with Randall Delgado and the shit show that was the Arizona Diamondback. Yep. Last year, he was big. This thing we do hated Daniel Hudson. By the way, Donnie, have I ever told you the story about when I got into an argument with De La Rosa's wife?
Jorge De La Rosa's wife?
Yeah.
Wow. What was that about?
One time I was tweeting about him and how shitty he was, which I've done on many occasions. And I get this random notification from a Maria.
She was one of those searching for names.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, first of all, how'd you find this? And then she's like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. My husband's great, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, thinking about it. I'm like, well, you know what? I mean, she is riding for her husband, but what the hell? You're laying in bed, like searching for it or something? Like,
they are. Yep. He's giving up a run here, a run there. You just hit De La Rosa in there, and there it pops up. Idiot, moron, cost me money, and there goes the rider chick trying to stick up for him.
He's a gas can, man. I mean, he always has been. But yeah, she was riding out for her wife or for her husband, so I'll give it to her.
All right, if we keep it moving down the line here, Jeff, let's see what we get to next. They're obviously in play. Pittsburgh 6-5. Atlanta with Tehran on the mound versus the silent G-man in Selman 8-2. Atlanta never really struggled that one. Jumped on him right away, cruising to a what looks like to be a victory now in the bottom of the 8th. Line closed, pretty expensive for Selman too. Figuring that a lot of people would have backed Tehran in this situation. And I know it was a late pitching change where they went back. I know they were thinking about Thor, kept it at Selman. That was an interesting line, Jeff. Closing at 142 with him on the mound versus Atlanta's best pitcher. I know we get on Atlanta. They haven't won much on the road, but sometimes you just got to use your head in that situation, right?
Yeah, I have. Again, like I don't understand how you can lay 140 with Robert Selman. I mean, really. I mean, Robert Selman. We're not talking about Syndergaard or DeGrom. Robert Selman. Yeah. Look, I've mentioned I can't stand the New York Mets. I think they're awful. And yeah, listen, this is just not a spot I'm interested in. I mentioned yesterday I liked this spot. It didn't end up going with the game being called, but Tehran, I'm a fan. I do have kind of a soft spot. I think the Braves are better than people might think. They're going to win some games this year, and they're winning games, Donnie, that they wouldn't have won last year. I don't get backing Selman here at this price. I'll be honest, if this was 110, I would still back them. I didn't really at all get any reason why you would back Selman here.
Yeah, 68% of the money too, Jeff, coming in on Atlanta there. So the money was right in that situation with a nice one. Next one up on the docket, trying to close it out in Boston is the New York Yankees. Severino with another good pitching performance here versus Porcello. Closed at a decent line. I mean, you're looking at Yankees getting a little bit of plus money in this one. Boston just short of 120. It's 3-1 now in the 9th, man on second. And Aroldis Chapman trying to shut the door. It looks like Hanley Ramirez is at the plate with a 1-1 count. So, if he can connect on one, maybe tie it up, we'll see. But, I think it was 3-0, Jeff, heading into the 9th inning in this one. So it looks like he did give up a run there.
Yeah, Boston continuing to struggle to hit the baseball. It seems like, again, and I know they have a decent run rate at home, but I don't know. It seems like I'm a lot more than normal seeing the Boston Red Sox with, no runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, just not enough. Nice performance from Severino tonight. Porcello did his job, but They just can't get runs.
Just not hitting yet at home. Was Pedroia in the lineup tonight, Jeff? I didn't actually check the closing lineups there.
Dustin Pedroia was not in the lineup, no.
Not in the lineup, yes. I mean, another key cog in that situation. But
is there a more automatic out, Donnie, than Chris Young?
Your boy Buxton, maybe, but that's about it. Right?
Other than him, and
or we can throw in Jeff the 6 through 9 for the Kansas City Royals. We're going to start that fan club up.
One of my favorites. This guy's a known loser in MLB. I know this thing we do. You can relate to this one. Do you know who Adam Rosales is, Donnie?
I do know the name, yes.
He's horrible, dude. He's
who is he on? Who is he on?
He's been on like every team in like the major leagues.
I know. Was he on Minnesota for a while?
No, he was with Texas for a while. He's on the Oakland Athletics now.
Yeah, that's it. Gotcha.
Yeah, there's some brutal ones, but Chris Young's one of my favorites. When he's in the lineup, I look elsewhere normally.
Looks like a pass ball by Chapman, which got a Red Sox to third base. So obviously not the tying run, but 1 out, 3-1, man on third.
Can we talk about the fucking Orioles?
Well, actually, they just bailed themselves out. Got out of that double in the gap in the 9th inning. So
you had an error gifted to you by Tim Beckman. Okay,
yeah, threw it into the seats with nobody on. Yep,
you got a guy in second, no outs, and you don't get him in. I mean, this Baltimore Orioles team. One thing about them that's kind of weird this year, they're not hitting like normal. They're struggling to score runs. It seems like. They have a great team ERA, good bullpen for the most part, but they need to start scoring some runs.
I mean, when they're on, but we've talked about it plenty of times, Jeff. There's, the one guy I can't stand to have at the plate. Like if there's a man on second and nobody out or a man on third, 1 out, I hate when Chris Davis comes to the plate. And you start to feel that way a lot of times with Trumbo. Like you just need to make contact and put the ball in play. And they never adjust their swing, change anything up. And the last thing you need is a strikeout. And it seems like they give that to you more than not.
I saw a pretty amazing stat today. I don't know if you saw this on MLB Network. They do, by the way, you talk about a network that's, as far as like the sport networks, they're all really good, I think. Like I think the NBA network's really good. But Major League Baseball network, really good. I mean,
they have the cleanest network. They have the cleanest network.
Some of the best, stat guys, just experiences. They don't really delve too much away from baseball, which I like. If I'm watching MLB Network, I want to talk about MLB Network. I don't want to talk about like the Shaq, Charles Barkley group are funny, but it's like, let's talk a little bit of basketball once in a while. But I saw a stat today that they threw out this year, Donnie. Let me get the stat up. It's crazy trend. I took a picture of it. It was so good. And I didn't even realize it. We've talked a lot about, home runs and strikeouts. 1 out of every 3 at-bats, Donnie, are ending in a home run, strikeout, or walk in baseball right now. One of 3.
The Tony Gwynns of the world don't look like they'll be happy about that.
No, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, as far as, that's a lot. I mean, just not a lot of there's not a lot of, you're right, not a lot of Tony Gwynns out there,
later on the show, I see the chat box popping up. We got a lot on ESPN that we're going to go over a little bit later once we, get Ed on, ask some questions. We don't have much of a timeline tonight, so that's good. There's a lot to get to, but I know ESPN was a big thing going on today. We'll talk about that a little bit later, Jeff. But another interesting one, break out the champagne bottles, Jeff. The Seattle Mariners are up 8-0 in the 9th inning. Could they be possibly getting a road win here?
Well, it looks like they're going to. I mean, it would be a pretty bad beat if they didn't. I will say this, and I'll give the Mariners a little bit of credit here. The only time, and I'm talking about the only time, if you can avoid it, it's probably your best interest. The only time they're backable is when James Paxton pitches. I mean, he's really amazing, James Paxton. Yet another shutout tonight. Really fantastic stuff. They gave him some support. So nice job. They needed to win on the road. It was getting.
I guess Detroit really unloaded last night all of their offense and just saved it up and said we're just out of gas tonight, getting shut out at home in this situation. Next one up on the docket.
No surprise. Tyler Duffy comes in for the Twins and gives the lead up, which isn't surprising. Pass ball.
Duffy, Malone, Gibson crew. One of my favorites.
So when and for me. if you took the Twins tonight, the play was probably the first five. Santiago, I was more or less looking at there, but we'll hope that he can get out of it, which it's unlikely. By the way, Donnie, also Aroldis Chapman
Watching that.
having some issues here.
JBJ's at the plate, 0-2 count, 1 out, and JBJ. Jackie Bradley Jr. just struck out. I don't know if Jeff was within 2 feet of that ball right there. So obviously not a great at bat there. That's 2 outs now for
if you have the run line, which who knows if there's any out there. You're definitely.
I think Boston was a little bit of a favorite there, so I don't think they would be on it that way. But I get you.
Hopefully they can get out of this here. I'm still not that worried, even with a man on third. If he happens to get in, still 3-2. Where are we going next, Donnie? Sorry.
Minnesota, Texas was the game we're going over. 3-2 right now. Currently, Texas in the bottom of the 6th. Santiago labored, but he gave you what you needed. I mean, he hung on to the 5th inning, threw 100 pitches. I'm not sure. I'm not watching the game, so I don't know if he's still in the 6th. But he gave you workmanlike effort. But you got to touch up more than 2 runs.
Yeah, he came. They actually went to the bullpen at the beginning of this inning. Taylor Rogers comes in. Joey Gallo hit by a pitch. Trino strikes out. Sinsu Chu single. Delano DeShields walk. Wild pitch. And that's why they are where they are. Yeah, you look. I mean, Santiago was okay, but way too many pitches. You had to figure in the 4th inning when he had 80 pitches, he wouldn't be in too particularly long. They got the home run early from Escobar, but haven't done too much since. So we'll see what happens. The gift
still got to get through that Texas bullpen, Jeff.
Right,
I mean, that's what it carries. So we'll see how that goes.
And Hamels is at 81 pitches. So you have to figure he'll come out at some point. Looks like Texas did something. I don't have it up here. We'll see in a moment. What else do we have, Donnie?
Next game, Washington. Tanner Roark on the mound going. By the way, Texas is now 5-2. So that's what just blinked up on my chart. Washington, Colorado, 5-0. Tanner Roark, huh?
That's why I hate
Zach Duffy's in the game here getting lit.
Yeah. No surprise. Washington up 5-0, which not really surprising to me. I know Ian Cameron was real high on the Rockies. I'm not. I'll come out and say it. It's my show. I can say what I want. I'm not going to downplay what another person says. I understand where he's going. They have a great lineup, but that rotation is just not any good. Chatwood struggles in Coors. I'm on the over. We'll see what happens. We're kind of on our way. We need a little bit of a pick-me-up, but hopefully
we see what happened. What'd you have last night? One run through 6, and
the other night.
6 went off the other night. Yeah, exactly.
We'll see how it goes. This one's never over till it's over. What are your opinions on round robin bets? I don't do them. I've never done them. I've never done them. Never did them. Pete Rose is a joke. He's a character, nothing else. Agreed. If I wanted to talk about gambling, I'd probably talk to him, but I'm not really interested in his baseball points. Syndergaard's my lock for tomorrow. Good luck. I'm not interested in the Mets. Anything else, Donnie?
Last one looks like games just tipping off, I should say, just getting underway. Godley 1-0 over San Diego currently. Manaea Shoemaker 0-0 in the first. Same thing with Wood and Cueto. Almost had a play there on the LA Dodgers, but pulled back and just went with a home dog here, which lead off single for Chicago Cubs. So again, when you're playing baseball and you're laying down with some fleas at times, you're always going to have to hold on. But I can't stress it enough. Sometimes in games, it does make sense to hedge your bet a little bit there. The reason why I did it, which I got a couple DMs there, and I explained it on Twitter as much as I could. So if anybody wasn't watching there, when the starter in the game, who was Glass now, threw 31 pitches in the first inning, and I was able to get a 2-0 lead, he's not going to last. And he only lasted through 4 innings, which is amazing. Because with Lester, you figure he would have got it fixed out, even though it was 6-3 early, and say, "Oh man, you're up 3 runs and all this." I said, there's still a lot of way to go in this game. I'm going to pull away a nice profit as is. If the first inning Glass now, Jeff, only threw like 8 or 9 pitches, of course I'm not buying out because it's a clean inning. He's going to go, but you could see it right away where he's dodging bullets, bases loaded in the first and the second inning. Take the money and run sometimes. Sometimes it's smart. I still, again, hope that Pittsburgh pulls this game out and we take a little bit more money down. But sometimes just got to be smart about your money.
I'll just say this, and this is just my whole way of thinking. I never buy out of bets, ever. I don't care unless it's a big injury and I could somehow get the right line. But Listen, I'm in this to make money. I'm in this to win bets, and I hear your point of view. I get what you're saying. And in baseball in April, I guess if you have the opportunity, you make the money you can. I just don't do it. I hedge for sure, definitely.
No,
But
that I didn't buy out of it. I mean, I had a nice price back, having plus 152 on the Cubs and then having plus 134 on Pittsburgh. So I came down a little bit. Like, I'm not going to win that. If the Cubs win, I'm going to win some money. But look, hold on, here we go. Double play. What do you have? 463. Oh, too slow. Anyway, one out there. But again, I'm pulling it down. And again, I don't recommend it because I don't do it that often. But sometimes you have to look at it. Look at the situation overall of what happens. If you have a live betting situation, the same as basketball, somebody gets injured in a game, a quarterback goes down, and you're able to get out or maybe hedge it or take ultimately, getting plus money back. I recommend it. But you're right, Jeff. In the long term, if you're just looking at ways to buy out of your bets, you end up costing yourself the wins and still taking the losses, which I think is what you're trying to say, which I do agree with.
Yeah, you got to love Dog Raymond on the chat box. The lock.
We got locks tomorrow. Who was the one about a week and a half ago who had the lock on the Indians, like minus 250?
Oh, yeah. How'd that work out?
Who was that guy on there? I don't know.
By the way, I mean, again, you're not really going on a limb there. They're laying 206 for Christ's sakes. And second of all, I've never seen you give a lockout on this, so I don't know.
Dog, I'm gonna tail Dog on this one.
Yeah, I've never seen him give a pick out here, so I can't really comment on it. But I might just take the Braves just to do it.
Raw just shuts the door there for us, Jeff.
Yeah,
he actually got away with one too. You're right on that. Oh my God, Chapman just got away with a hanger. That was a blast down the line too. Woo.
Yeah, it was. But
wrap it up. Oh, actually, Oakland, Jeff, top of the first, 2-0. So I'm wondering if somebody hit a home run in that one or got on the board early. So
I back Oakland last night. And I'll do shit tonight. Of course, they're leading. No surprise. NBA tonight. Wizards with a nice win. They take the series. The home team has won every game in this series, though they did not cover tonight. 4-point win. They were laying 6. So again, I mentioned on the show earlier, I thought the line was getting a little too high. Just had a feeling tonight, but Washington gets the job done, which is the most important thing. The Boston Celtics are struggling tonight. They are now losing to the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, how about that?
Which, again, not a surprise.
Pittsburgh is just trying to give. I'm sorry to cut you off, big man. Second straight double play ball. This one they boot the double play ball altogether. So this is hilarious, man. Woo.
Yeah, I said Kershaw was a lock last night, and you argued. I mean,
I think Kershaw's pretty much.
Think anyone ever argued. No, we just don't lay those ridiculous numbers. Sorry, I actually didn't argue. I said Blatch is a good pitcher, and he's fantastic, and he was.
By the way, Jeff, in the NBA, talk about that Wizards-Hawks game, 103-99. I watched it coming down the stretch because, when the game gets tight, I'm interested. I'll watch it, and especially when the line comes into play. There were a lot of sixes out there, Jeff. And Marcin Gortat, I don't know if he was 6 inches away from the rim. First of all, he shouldn't have shot this shot anyway. He probably should have kicked it out for free throws. But he goes for the easy bunny layup. I don't even know if he even hit the rim. And then you always get that one where you're hoping for a miss and a foul. And they take too long. They shoot a 3, goes down, rebound 1 second to go, no foul. I saw a lot of upset people in that game.
Yeah, Gortat's been, the last 3 games been awful. Really just terrible. He had 10 rebounds tonight, but he hasn't gotten to the foul line. Tonight was the first time he got to the foul line in the series, which, it's not going to happen too much. With him getting to the line, it's just not something that happens, but he's just not been very good in this series, unfortunately. But yeah, if you had the Wizards tonight, sorry, it sucks.
It certainly does. Yeah. No, but that'll be, there's no other NBA games on tonight. What's the next one?
No, there's only 2 tonight. So
NHL action looks like Nashville's up 3-1, and they came in as a slight underdog in this one, but in the third period, late up 2 goals in that one. Edmonton and Anaheim kicked that off a little bit later tonight in action. So that's what you got there so far tonight.
There's really not much I wouldn't watch over NHL, honestly. You could give me the Home and Garden Network, and I'd find some way to find it.
OT's fun, man. I got to get you into that. It's fun.
I'll never get into it. It's terrible. Unless it's the Flyers, and that's just because it's the Flyers.
We don't get that around here that often anymore from what you guys can tell. Here we go. Let's try another double play ball, and they turn it. Pittsburgh with the win. There we go, fellas.
Yeah, I was actually today, Donnie, on Real Madrid and Barcelona money lines. I was laid 900 and 850. So, dog, me and you have a little bit in common here. Let's move on. I'm only messing with you, man. Let's move on.
That's what we kid and shy in fun. If we didn't recognize the message board or poke you or poke us back, it wouldn't be any fun in here.
Yeah. But let's kind of move on. We're gonna have Ed Feng call here in a moment. He's gonna
let's do a little bit of prep tomorrow, Jeff. I mean, I saw my wife works downtown in Center City. She said it's popping down there everywhere you look. I saw. How about this one, Jeff? The Marlins are staying in Wilmington, Delaware this week because every hotel room is checked out in Center City due to the NFL being in town. How about
really?
That? Yes.
I didn't hear about that.
In Wilmington, they're staying, yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Well, it's not cool for them, but I didn't know that. Wow. Bad scheduling by them, though, right?
You got to look ahead on something like that, but I guess the NFL comes in with power and just calls every hotel, we need to be booked, agents, players, and all the five-star hotels, which – only baseball and the NBA, that's all they look for. So when you got to get into like the Four Seasons or, the Hyatt or whatever it is, they're all booked up because that's where royalty is staying, and that's the NFL.
That's interesting. I did not know that, honestly. Ed Feng, what's up, man?
What's up?
Eddie!
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Baby.
Good to see you, man. We haven't seen you in a while. How's everything going?
Great, man. Can't complain.
Good. You're so laid back, I feel like. Would you just smoke an L or something?
Maybe. Whatever I got to do.
He probably broke down some algorithms over there, Jeff. Too smart for me over there.
Yeah, he's in the zone over here.
Yes, he is.
Ed, welcome to the Late Night on Campus. As you know, we have our show here late at night, very laid back. And, we've been talking NFL draft, obviously, last night, tonight. And for anyone that doesn't know about you, because obviously – we add people every day to the listener board here at SBR. Just tell everyone a little bit about what you do and what you have going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I started the powerrank.com. I was kind of an academic dropout in some sense and thought about how to figure out how to apply my research to sports and ranking teams and making predictions. And so that's what I do. More recently, I've been really interested in wisdom of crowds. Been interested in this phenomenon that the preseason.
What is that, Ed?
Yes,
tell me more about
explain that one. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the preseason AP poll is actually a surprising predictor of both college football bowl games and NCAA tournament games. It's kind of counterintuitive, but the idea is like before the season starts, all these sports writers submit their polls, and no one poll is particularly good. But if you combine 60 of them, it actually leads to a pretty powerful predictor.
Right.
And before the season, it tends to be really powerful. It's not like crowds are always smart because they're not. But in the preseason, before we've seen any games, these sports writers are very good judges of talent. Now, once the season starts, that all goes to hell because, once if a team loses, they drop. If a team wins, they kind of keep their spot in line. And you can have, how many times in college football do we see the third-ranked team travel to the second-ranked team, lose by a field goal, and then drop 5 spots?
Right.
And it's like, well, maybe you are the third best team in the country. And so anyways, it doesn't really work as well later in the season, but so counterintuitively, the preseason AP poll is actually a powerful predictor. And I decided to apply that same thing to the NFL draft. I mean, there's no shortage of mock drafts out there, and I combined them together to come up with this model. It's not the most sophisticated math in the world, but I'm trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to more accurately predict where all these players are going to go. And there's some data to suggest that I'll get the relative placement better than most of the individual mock drafts.
Now, Donnie, let's put my picks up to what Ed has.
Yes, absolutely.
Do it.
It'll be interesting and we'll kind of go over kind of what we had and what Ed has, and then we'll get into a little bit more.
Yeah, just to cut in there, like I'm fascinated, because Jeff, me and Jeff more, I want to say Neanderthal in our thought process, like going over the draft. I love new information like this because a couple years ago, Jeff, this wasn't around, so I'm really interested.
Sure.
In this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as far as draft stuff, I kind of find myself as like an encyclopedia. I just kind of look at teams. What do they need? Where are they short at? What do they need this? Do they need that? And just kind of see where that player fits. But as far as this is pretty interesting. I mean, obviously we can agree. Myles Garrett, we both have that best player in the draft. Yep. They need it. If I'm in Cleveland, I'd look quarterback, but there's no quarterback in this draft worthy. So obviously you go with Myles Garrett. 2, I see where you're going here with Solomon Thomas. I think that's probably where he'll go. I think they need a quarterback, though. I think we all know that. I think Mitchell Trubisky might be the fit there, but out of sense too. So that's something I would probably considerably agree with. 3, I had Jonathan Allen also. But then, Donnie, you look at 4, Marshawn Lattimore, which makes sense. Pass defense issues. I think Leonard Fournette works here, but what you don't think they should go offense here, Ed? Jacksonville?
I mean, they certainly can. Jacksonville's defense looked decent by my numbers, which is adjusted yards per attempt. But cornerback is the hardest position to fill, and this is a very rich cornerback draft. And they're in a position to nab the top one right there. I should say, the model might not be good at nailing exactly what team is going to pick what player. Okay, so for example, I have Carolina picking Mitch Trubisky. That's not happening. They got their franchise quarterback. But what it should be better at is getting the relative position. So it should get that.
I see. I got you.
That it should get that. Lattimore is the first cornerback off the board. It should get relatively that you're going to get 7, 8 defensive backs in the first round. I expect those types of things to be true.
So in a way, you're willing to get one wrong to fill other positions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and in my article, I talk. I mean, I make a lot of. I try to comment about this pick makes sense. This pick doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So.
I mean, a couple were dead right on. I mean, I had Mike Williams going 10 to Buffalo as well, which, right. I mean, we talked about that, Donnie, you and I, with Sammy Watkins, obviously a guy that struggled to stay healthy. They kind of threw the boat at him. It hadn't really worked out. I mean, it's worked out, I guess you could say, when he plays, but, him playing has been few and far between. They have an offense, a guy with a deep arm. I think he fits there. And per pass attempt, like you've said, they struggled. OJ Howard, I've said last night, I'm not going to talk people's ear off again. I think he could possibly be one of the best players in this draft as far as upside's concerned. I had him going to the Tennessee Titans, but at 9, I think that makes sense as well. Again, I mean, they do have Tyler Eifert, but he doesn't necessarily have to play tight end. You could also use a 2 tight end set. Right. Which, Donnie, we've talked about with the Philadelphia Eagles. I would really give whatever I could for him to come here, to be honest. Donnie,
since he's in a spot where they can pick the best player, right? I mean, they have less glaring holes than a lot of these other teams that are in the top 10, and so they can really go with who they like the best.
So, Donnie, you agree Mike Williams is top 10 pick, right?
It's really interesting because he is a top 10 talent to me. But something just tells me I actually think Corey Davis has a shot to go ahead of him.
I think with Corey Davis, unfortunately, though, I think a lot of people, and again, it's a stupid way to look at it, they buy into the small school aspect.
Yeah, I get it. Yep.
But again, I mean, all we had to do is look at Antonio Brown. Look at the same. Remember the Carson Wentz stuff last year? I mean, how's he going to be? I mean, we can throw that out. Competition doesn't mean much. He faced a ton of Big Ten teams and did really well. I don't really look. I think he's I have him going 18, but. What'd you have to say, Ed? Sorry.
I just one thing I'd like to throw in there. Mike Williams had a really good second half against Marlon Humphrey, another first-round pick in the national title game.
He was great. Yep.
And I think that really helps his stock right there. Of course, he's got Deshaun Watson throwing to him too, but
sure.
But I mean, I thought he beat Humphrey quite a bit, and I was surprised because I thought Watson was going away from him in the first half of that game.
And don't forget, I mean, he did miss the his junior year also. So that I don't know that it hurt.
Neck injury, right?
Yeah, the neck injury. Yeah, in the first that first game. Yep. Amore, we are aware the Seattle Mariners won. Call the dogs off. They finally won a road game. Good for them.
Ed, by the way, quick question on looking at something at the draft. One thing that's been poo-pooed over the past couple years is the running back position and how interchangeable it can be. All of a sudden, the resurgence here, maybe with Zeke Elliott last year, now you're looking at 3 running backs possibly going in the top 20. Does any analytics or anything stick out in that reasoning why they might be creeping back into the first round where they were so downtrodden? Just get a running back in the 5th round and you'll be fine on production.
Yeah, I looked into this a couple years ago, and I'm missing the last couple years. But I found that teams have been consistently taking running backs approximately the same spot over the last 2 decades. There was never a dearth of 3 or 4 years where there are no first-round picks And I actually thought that would be the case. We're devaluing rushing in the NFL. The numbers clearly show that. I could talk your ear off about that all day, but that hasn't really found itself into the draft. From what I found, and again, this was a couple years ago. I was ready to put some nice visualizations about how no one drafts running backs anymore. That wasn't true a couple years ago. I don't think it's still true. This is a pretty strong class.
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan of Dalvin Cook, but I think Fournette and McCaffrey are going to be pretty good players.
You're not a fan of Dalvin Cook?
I might have to go upstairs and take a break. Might have to have a smoke on that one. I might have to have a smoke now.
Yeah, Donnie, it's funny you mentioned that because Ryan Donnie mentioned to me, he's like, God, Donnie loves Dalvin Cook, doesn't he? I thought he was a Miami fan. It's you love. Let me ask you a question, Donnie. If Dalvin Cook said to you, "Hey, listen, do you want to go out to dinner with me?" Would you go out with him?
Why wouldn't I go out to dinner with the guy?
You love Dalvin Cook, dude.
Yeah, I'm going.
You love Dalvin Cook. I mean,
I want the guy that can take a handoff and rip it off 80. And if you just turn on the tape, he's the best football player every single time he's on the field. I love that about him. I know he's a running back, nicked up a little bit, maybe a little questionable on the character issue, but a smart man once said, you need to have a couple guys that are ready to commit a felony at any moment in order to have a good ball club. So
I got to tell you, though, we have this listener, Ed, he's been synonymous for mentioning that Christian McCaffrey's not going to stay healthy running between tackles. I mean, have you watched Darren Sproles? I mean, have you watched all these little guys in the NFL? I mean, you got to stop Marino with this stupid comment.
I don't think he's really going to be used that way anyway. Like, you're going to get him in space, and he'll get 15 to 20 touches a game. But again, from punt returns, from kick returns, from screen passes, screen or throwing out in the flat. That's how you would use the kid.
Yeah, and it's like you're not going to use him to pound the ball down the middle. Yeah. He's not going to be Ron Dane or something. I mean, he's going to be swing passes, a Tim Dwight kind of player, or like a.
But the thing is, you can run him up the middle a couple times, right? It's not like, when you have that guy in there, you're never going to do it. I mean, I think he can hold up for as many plays, but clearly his talent is in the complete game, right? Yeah. Kick returns as a receiver, great route running, great hands. That's why you would pick a guy like that over a Leonard Fournette, which, I would. I love McCaffrey. Obviously, I'm a little biased as a Stanford guy, but I think his game is fantastic.
Yeah, top 3 quarters in the draft for me. My opinion on that, Mr. Gogster, I would go. Jamal Adams is safety. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Corners, I would go Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey, and.
I guess you got to down. Conley's coming on strong with the PR.
But again,
he didn't do it. We're diming him out, but he's definitely going to drop. There's no question about it.
It's a shame. That's a different conversation, clearly. But he's a guy that I think will, be a steal for whoever gets him. There's a lot of good safeties in this draft, to be honest. But those kids from Ohio State, Tre'Davious White's very good. The kids from Washington.
Tankersley. Yeah, there's a couple good corners out there you're going to be able to get in that second and third round.
Kevin,
all those guys are in my first round.
Sure. So. Amen. Let's get into the second round here. And guys, again, Tony G's about to kill someone to get prop bets. We're going to get into that, Tony. Take it easy.
By the way, before we get into the second, do any numbers that you have or like a mock draft that you have, Ed? Who are the Eagles taking? Did you say that already? Did I miss that?
I got the Eagles taking I think I got them taking
Corey Davis.
Which, might not
I wouldn't mind that. I can look, people hear me all the time. I get passionate. If you give me anything but a cornerback, I will pop bottles tomorrow and smoke cigars until the sun comes up. Please don't give me a cornerback at 14. Or if you trade back, because that always works out well for the Philadelphia Eagles. Please don't do that.
All right.
Donnie, let me ask you something.
That was just my PSA right there.
Before we get into the second round, or not second round, the second wave of picks here. Mm-hmm. And Ryan and I, again, we're talking about this as well. The Eagles have a tendency at times, which we all know this, of fucking this up.
Yes.
Danny Watkins, Marcus Smith, Mike Mamula. They have major issues with this.
John Harris, yes.
Jerome McDougal. They have many issues with this.
Yep.
Is there a possible
– Nelson Aguilar, it's endless. Yes, correct.
Is there a scenario whatsoever that they could screw this up? Like, it'd be really hard to screw this up because other than like a punter, what could they do wrong here?
Like it just gets back to the old adage. In the NFL, they slot you to help you out. When you suck, you get the number 1 pick. When you're mediocre like the Eagles, you get 14. Pick 14. You're going to get the 14th best, quote unquote, from what you think player in the draft. I never understood the philosophy. We have a lot of holes to fill. So let's just take a waiver and get 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Hey, we traded back in the 1st round and got an extra 3rd round pick.
Right.
Great. You probably cut the guy at the end of the 2nd year and didn't produce. Take the 14th pick. You're there for a reason. Otherwise, Jeff, you would have, Cleveland's the worst team in the league. We're going to give them 7 4th-round picks. We're not even going to give them in the 1st round. Oh, yeah, we have a lot of picks to fill. I love that. No. You want number 1 because you're the worst team and you want the best player.
Well, I guess we should say this. At least they're in the 1st round. Thank God they somehow got a 1st-round pick for Sam Bradford, which is probably highway robbery, I would say. But nonetheless.
Or you could be the Rams and suck and not have a 1st-round pick.
Right. Good point.
And have a quarterback who had a very questionable season, so you're not even excited about him either. Yeah, that's
questionable is about the best I've ever heard describe that season.
Ed, do you have an NFL team?
I'm here in Ann Arbor. I like the Lions. There's no pressure every year. They're not going to win.
Well,
go and do my job and
sure.
do it without much bias when we head into the playoffs. So.
Ed, do you want to hang on for our late picks here, or are you jumping off?
I should probably take off. I've been
give us a nugget tomorrow night. Do you have any prop bets or anything that you're looking at, or maybe a surprise in the draft that you can leave us with on that, Ed?
Surprise in the draft.
Mitch, I guess it'd probably be what? Mitch Trubisky, maybe. Not going in the top 6 or 7. You have him 8, which is probably not going to happen.
I have him 8, which is where he's not going to go. Right. One thing I'm really looking for tomorrow. What my model does suggest is if Cleveland wants him, they're going to have to trade up from 12 to do it.
Right.
That's very uncharacteristic for Cleveland. So let me get this off my chest too, man. I don't like Mitch Trubisky. I think this guy's way overrated. I'm not exactly sure what people see. This guy could not beat out Marquise Williams for the starting job the previous 2 years before this year. Marquise Williams is not on an NFL roster right now.
13 starts. Yeah, you're going to invest your whole future on 13 starts. Like Achilles Smith Part 2 out in Oregon when he had like 12 starts as well. I agree with you. Go ahead.
Right, and I think Deshaun Watson has his problems, but we've seen him do it against Alabama's defense twice. We've seen him do it against other. Yeah, he had a bad game against Troy, but I like Watson. I'm not a fan of Trubisky. I'm interested to see where his career goes. Obviously, there's a lot of volatility with these quarterbacks in general.
Yep.
But that's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, you did mention quickly 6 picks in the top 65 for the Cleveland Browns. They can trade up, which I could definitely see that. And obviously, it's hard to predict that, but they could be the team that takes Mitch Trubisky. We'll see.
You got to remember, too, though, that they're a numbers team, and they understand that kind of the best way to take advantage of the draft is just to have more picks. So think about what the Ravens have done, right? They got that $20 million albatross at quarterback, yet they're still competitive for the playoffs every year. And I think what they've done is they've just gotten a lot of 2nd, 3rd round picks. A lot of these guys make that team pretty strong. I think Cleveland's headed in that same direction. I know they like Trubisky. I've heard all these rumors. But maybe they actually trade down from 12. Maybe I doubt they trade number 1.
Yeah, they had a lot of stuff coming out today and yesterday that they were actually looking to move up from 12 into the top 10, which would probably trigger that they're going after the quarterback in that one. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, if they're moving up, I think they take a quarterback.
I wonder if they
regret. Hugh Jackson's a quarterback guy, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to be a guru out there with all those geniuses that he's got the past couple of years. We'll see. Boy, still out on Hugh Jackson and what I actually think of him. I don't really, but again, they have the first, as Ed, you would probably agree with, one of the most forward-thinking front offices. Will it work or not? Because, adding baseball people in there, really honing in on taking the picks and getting analytics, it's going to be interesting. It's going to play a lot going forward to see if other NFL teams buy into it, a la like the NBA has done.
Well, and we'll see, too, because the owner does not exactly have the most patience in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm honestly surprised all those guys are back this year with the way the owner is.
When they spent, what was it, 2 years ago? They spent a $500,000 on analytics, telling them that Teddy Bridgewater was the pick. and he talked to some street bum, and they told him to take Manziel. So he said, "Yeah, let's just burn that $500,000. I know you guys want to take him, but I need Manziel." So I mean, that's just the way it goes.
I think I remember that story. Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if they regret not taking Carson Wentz.
Yes, I don't regret it. Thank you.
Of course we don't. I don't either. But I mean, of course, I mean, you have to think they regret that. But Ed Feng, it was just nice to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I think this is a really interesting way to look at the draft. Obviously, like you said, you put 60 AP polls together. A lot of the time, they're probably going to come out and have something to say at the end of the year with something positive. Really interesting way to look at things. I know many people have wondered what you've been doing. Let people know where to find you and kind of what you have going on coming up here.
Yeah, man, I'm at the Power Rank on Twitter, and honestly, I'm getting ready for next football season right now. Trying to relax. Me and you had a pretty nice conversation about history. I'm actually reading Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow right now, which is awesome. I want to get you, Jeff, to give me a history book that's your favorite.
I'll tell you what, I have plenty. I mean, I mentioned to you the history that I like, but we'll have to talk about that. Ed, you're one guy. I said to you on the phone, Donnie, I said about Ed, I think he's an intriguing cat, man. He really is. He's, in this business, I mean, I'm going to say it. There's not a lot of people that you can have a conversation with kind of on an intellectual level. Ed Feng is one of those people. Sometimes it's refreshing to just have a conversation with someone about something other than sports. And Ed, you can always do that with. We're definitely going to have to make that happen. Anything, Ed, you know what? Anything mob related. I'm a mob history.
Nice.
As far as that's concerned. So, anything mob related. But, I love, anything. Revolutionary War is cool. I know I said I'm kind of after the Civil War, but stuff like that. Anything really. You're an interesting cat, Ed. I love you, man, and I'm happy to.
Thanks, dude.
Happy to have you on, and we're definitely going to look forward to seeing you in football season.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate it, guys. Catch you soon.
All right, Ed. See you, buddy.
Man. By the way, Jeff, history, a little tidbit on me. Graduated college. My degree is in history.
Oh,
that's and now I'm capping games for a living. How about that?
Why the hell didn't you mention that,
Yeah,
Ed?
how about that, man?
Yeah, Ed's a good dude. We had a good talk today.
Stanford PhD. That's
yeah. By the way, has anyone ever met a PhD? I mean, Ed's a PhD. Great, great thinker there. Doing a lot of work that I probably never will do. Donnie, let's get into the second half of the draft here.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Chat about where we're going here. Let's start. 17, Washington Redskins. Listen, I think it's clear. I mean, you got to look defense here. You got to look particularly on at the linebacker position, if you ask me. When was the last time they had a really, really good linebacker, Donnie?
I guess London Fletcher, who was like 97 years old by the time he retired with them. But yeah, I agree.
And look, again, I mean, you signed DJ Schweringer, which is a nice addition in the secondary, but they still have some issues on defense. You have to have a commanding player at linebacker, if you ask me. I think they go Gerard Davis here from the University of Florida, a guy that you can play right away. I've seen a lot of mocks. They're really high on him. I think he goes here, and from a good place in Florida, which is obviously known for defense. I think he comes right in and helps them at linebacker here.
Yeah, so a lot of mocks, Jeff, heading into that one where they're looking at taking Dalvin Cook in that position and maybe Ross there because you do lose D-Jack, so you want to almost replace him with that type of player. But you can't go wrong at that. The Redskins are more reliant where they need defensive playmakers, so I agree with you there, and especially at the linebacker position, that would fit right into me as well.
Amen. And again, look, if somehow Reuben Foster's still on the board, I'm sure they would go that route, but I think he goes right before that to the to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
18 Tennessee Titans. I mentioned. I think you need to continue to bolster the offensive weaponry that you have. I think if you take O.J. Howard at 5, I think Corey Davis will be on the board. I could see them going cornerback here, but I think you need to get as many offensive weapons as you can, especially with a pretty deep wide receiver draft, particularly early. Corey Davis is a guy that I think will be there. I think he'll drop a little bit. I think he would be a really nice weapon to add to the arsenal for Mariota.
Yeah, no, he definitely needs weapons there. We talked about it last night. You have a good offensive line. You obviously have the quarterback. You have the power running game. Now you need to open that up a little bit. I like the tight end position that they have, but yes, you need somebody on the outside. Go with Tajay Sharp. Two good young kids who can learn with a young quarterback. I like that method.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, their defense wasn't terrible last year. All of a sudden, if you had Tajay Sharp, you have Corey Davis, you have O.J. Howard, DeMarco Murray, a pretty decent offensive line. I mean, that's a pretty nice group there offensively for the Tennessee Titans, who I think we've seen, that group as far as the AFC South, I mean, it's very winnable. So I think you go out and get the most weapons you can. I think this is where you start and add Corey Davis. 19, Donnie, the surprise for me next year, a team that I'm really high on, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really like this team. I'm going to go defense here. I think you continue to bolster that defensive line. It's nice to get a guy that can not only blitz the quarterback if you need to, but can stop the run. And this might be a little high for this guy, but he comes from a great system. He had a nice career in college. He maybe has some issues with, kind of not working hard enough, but I think that's only going to help. He'll get to that point when he gets to the NFL. That'll just make him work harder. I'm going to go Taco Charlton here, defensive lineman from Michigan. Really liked what he did with that group, him and Chris Wormley on that defensive line. I think if you pair him with the likes of Levante David and Robert Ayers, really nice group there. That's an up-and-coming team if you ask me.
Yeah, to bolster, I like it actually a little bit different. I agree with that. And if you go defense, you get a playmaker at that spot. I do like that. But I think Jameis Winston still needs a couple more weapons there. Maybe even that, you have Deshaun Jackson who's now going to open up that offense a little bit. You have Mike Williams on the other side. Mike Evans. I'm sorry about that. Mike Evans. But now you can add like a David Njoku from Miami, or you can add maybe Evan Ingram out of Ole Miss and really complete that offense and take that step forward where you have all your bases covered. Just something to look at in that realm because I love what they have at wide out. I like the quarterback a lot. Now give me that dominant tight end and let's get after it.
Yeah, I could definitely see them going that way. Brate was a decent tight end, but definitely, if there's someone there that, kind of rocks them, I think, going Njoku, maybe, he's definitely a really nice option. I think, though, if you look at that defensive line, I mean, you look at William Golston, Gerald McCoy, you got Robert Ayers too. You throw, Chris Baker's a nice option, clearly, but even Charlton in that group. I mean,
I like Charlton. I'm a big fan of Charlton. Yeah.
Really good. I mean, Quan Alexander and Levante, just a really good defense. Maybe you go secondary, but you did that last year. You got Vernon Hargraves. You still have Brent Grimes, who's a pretty decent player. J.J. Wilcox is okay. Maybe they go that route, but I think Taco Charlton's a nice possibility here. We'll see how that goes, but I still understand where you're going with the David Njoku pick, but I have him coming up here in a minute. Let's go to 20, Donnie, the Denver Broncos, who have been a pretty good team for a long time. One thing that they have struggled with, though, is the offensive line. I think you go with Ryan Ramczyk here out of Wisconsin, probably the best offensive lineman in the draft. Maybe other than one or two others. I think this is a guy who can plug right in to play guard for you and give a little bit of stability to that offensive line.
Yeah, no, they definitely need it, getting a little bit older up there. I don't know if maybe a Cam Robinson would slip to them as well, might be a opinion there. But, yes, I agree with them. They need a complete rebuild of that offensive line, and you got to start somewhere. So, I mean, if this is going to be one of those picks you have to make there because you have talent outside, obviously at the wide receiver position, but you have to keep the young quarterbacks upright, and I think that would be a good pick.
Ed Feng's Detroit Lions.
Do we ask Ed who he thought the Lions would go after or no?
No, I don't think we did, actually.
Yeah.
We probably should have. Yep. And by the way, on Ramczyk, really tough kid from what I understand. Really kind of a tough, bruiser, typical Wisconsin type of player, and comes from good lineage from what I've seen here. So could be a really good home run for them, a guy that can play for 10 years for them. And they definitely need that. I mean, they've had the likes of Evan Mathis and just total dregs over the last couple of years.
Eagles, Evan Mathis, yes.
Yeah. 21 Detroit Lions. Listen, I mean, Calvin Johnson, Donnie, not walking through the door. He's not going to be there. I considered possibly a receiver here. Again, I like Golden Tate. Marvin Jones is okay. You do have some weapons, and I think you could still address that later. I think you need a linebacker here. I mean, you look at this linebacking group: Paul Wardlow, Tahir Whitehead, and Thurston Armbrister, whoever those guys are. I think from what I've heard, they're very high on Hassan Reddick. I think he falls this deep. I think they pick him up and grab him at 21. I think they get a linebacker here that can help them for a long period of time. And look, I mean, a pretty decent line there, with Haloti Ngata and Ziggy Ansah. I think if you throw Hassan Reddick in there, he'd be a really nice fit for this team.
Yeah, even maybe go outside with cornerback there, but I do agree that defense should be the right choice there for the Detroit Lions opposing to go with offense, or especially who's actually going to be on the board on offense at this point in the draft. I mean, we have most of the supreme skilled offensive players already off the board. I don't know if they would go tight end again or something like that, but again, they go tight end a couple years ago. You're not looking to spend another high pick. So yes, rebuilding the defense would make the most sense here in that equation.
Yeah, I mean, again, I could see John Ross maybe here, but I think John Ross is going to fall in this draft. He's going to be one of those guys that I think go on the board pretty long. I'll go Hassan Reddick here at 21. 22, the Miami Dolphins, which, listen, I think the Miami Dolphins have plenty of needs, clearly. I think they need a linebacker. I think they need corners. I think they need a lot. But one thing I do know that they need, from what I understand, they're moving Laramie Tunsil to left tackle, I believe. Which, if I read that right, I kind of forget. Doesn't he play a guard, Donnie?
I believe Tunsil was a guard last year. Yes.
Yeah, I think from what I understand,
they're sort of breaking him in, but they do want to kick him out to tackle. So yes,
I think you go Cam Robinson here, if it's my opinion. I mean, you shore up that guard position. You pair him with Pouncey and with Tunsil. You got to protect Ryan Tannehill. If that's your guy, you got to kind of take care of that position. A guard, it's a tough thing to find in this league anymore. Try to find me a guard, Donnie, worth a shit in the NFL anymore. It's pretty difficult. I think Cam Robinson will be a nice fit there. And immediately that line gets a lot better.
Yeah, yep. No, I would agree with you. I mean, I'm just looking down at that bottom after draft. It's basically value from what you're getting there. You don't want to extend. You don't want to reach. You don't want to trade out. It's really best player on the board that can help your team at that point. So, yes.
I mean, you have to draft for need. I mean, and you look at their guard position. I mean, Jermon Bushrod, who's been in the league for a long time, Anthony Steen, who I've never heard of, but you pair them with Jawan James, Mike Pouncey, and Tunsil, you immediately have a really good offensive
line. Lean on Jay Ajayi, man. He showed he could tote the rock last year, bolster that offensive line, help Tannehill out, everything. Yeah,
right. Plus, they have Jarvis Landry, they have Kenny Stills, they have
Devontae Parker, who was their first-round pick a year before. So yeah, I agree. Yep.
I will say this. I could see them going defensive back. I mean, when you're free safeties, Nate Allen, I mean, you might have to make some changes. I could see them going secondary there, but I think you got to shore up that guard position. 23, New York Giants. When was the last time they had a good tight end, Donnie? I think it was Jeremy Shockey.
The Shock Man, yes, correct.
I think you get a tight end here. Go David Njoku out of the U.
They would be a high-powered throwing team at that. I mean, I don't like Eli. I don't think he's a very good quarterback anymore. Way too injury-prone. But you're going to look, if they add like an Njoku there, a super athletic tight end to go with, Odell Beckham and to go with Marshall, who they just got, and also Sterling Shepard, don't forget. I mean, that's formidable out there. To me, if any way they could land a running back worth their salt, maybe a Dalvin Cook drops, they say have injuries, I think that would be ideal for the Giants maybe to trade up because they really need a premier running back. But boy, if you add Njoku to that team, look, lights out if you don't have a good secondary, man.
Yeah, wow. And I think, if you look at this NFC East all of a sudden, I mean, there are a lot of playmakers in this division all of a sudden. I mean, not that there hasn't been.
Dude, hold on. Tony S. Eli Manning could be the most overrated NFL quarterback there is out there. There's no bigger bum throwing picks left and right the past 5 years than Eli Manning.
I don't know.
You think he's still super lucky Eli back in the day? I give Eli credit for his Super Bowl game that he had against the Patriots. Other than that, he's done nothing for that team. That team was all defense. He is a pick city machine. And even I love it. Every time he plays the Eagles, it's my favorite day of the week because he gives us 2 or 3 interceptions. If Eli Manning was not on the Giants and had another serviceable quarterback, they would win more.
He actually Donnie, ranks third most consecutive regular season starts.
It doesn't matter. Third, and how many interceptions did he have? 975.
I can make the
turn
case.
The football over. You can't do it.
I think he's a possible Hall of Famer personally, but that's just my opinion. I mean, he's won a lot of Super Bowls, Donnie. I mean, you got to point that out.
He has won 2 Super Bowls. Trent Dilfer's won Super Bowl before. I mean, I give Eli credit. I said for that New England, he was fantastic in that game and led them in that one. But that defense toted the rock for Eli Manning. He has maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL, forces the ball all the time, and is a turnover machine. I mean, a machine. He's done. Giants are going nowhere next year. Nowhere again.
Yeah, I don't think I can't ever argue that. He does throw interceptions.
He throws interceptions and he's the worst. I don't even think he even knows half the time, because the one thing that always bailed out Eli Manning as well was Plaxico Burress. Oh my God, throw the ball, duck. I have a 6'9" giraffe at wide receiver. Please catch it. Maybe get a flag. As soon as he lost Plaxico Burress, interception machine.
All right. I mean, you definitely don't like Eli Manning. That's
no, I do not.
That's fine. I mean, I do. I still think he's a guy that is. I didn't say he was all of him. I think he could be. I think you can make the case for it. Yeah. Again, I don't know how we got into that, but who? Oh, because Tony S. Yeah, Tony S. was okay. Look, Tony, I don't think Donnie would pay any money to see a Super Bowl game with you either. So I think
a Super Bowl game, I would love to.
A Giant Eagle game. I'm sorry, a Giant Eagle game.
That's my favorite game of the year. The Eagles.
Let me guess, Tony S. You're a Giant fan.
That's what makes the rivalry great, though. Like, I forget about everybody grew up with the Dallas Cowboys, and we hate the Dallas Cowboys in Philadelphia. I actually don't hate the New York Giants. It's my favorite rivalry because we're so close, and the fact that the Eagles dominate the Giants makes it even better for me.
Right. No, and they have dominated. Remember all those sacks that one game a couple of years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. It was 27-0, I think it was.
All the time. The Eagles crushed them. It doesn't even matter. Like, we'll send Vince Young up there and beat Eli Manning and the Giants.
Remember the Miracle at the Meadowlands?
Miracle Meadowlands 1, Miracle Meadowlands 2. I mean, it's all good. It's all good.
All right, let's move on here. We get the Oakland Raiders, a team that's up and coming, playing well, doing some big things. I think it's clear. Probably got to go get a linebacker. I think they really need some cornerback help too. They had major issues in the secondary last year. I think a nice player to target here would be Kevin King out of Washington. That group was really good last year. Budda Baker, Sidney Jones, Kevin King. Yeah. Kevin King, a guy that can probably play multiple positions, but it's a cornerback. I think you've kind of shored up your one side for a long time. Kevin King's a pick here.
Yeah, no, I certainly would agree with that there. Take the best player available there. He's certainly going to shore that up. I would agree with that too. I don't have any issue with that pick whatsoever.
25. I think this is one of the more important picks in this draft, Donnie. I know it's a late pick, but you have possibilities here. I'm going to go Patrick Mahomes to the Texans. I think they have to find a quarterback. I think Patrick Mahomes is a guy that has some ceiling to him. I think he's a guy that obviously knows how to throw the football. You never know. I think he's a guy that really has some upside. If he's going to succeed, it would probably be under Bill O'Brien. I think it's an absolute must.
You're right about that too, Jeff, because when you think about the Houston Texans, what real need do they need other than a quarterback? I mean, you have the wide receivers, you have the running back now, Lamar Miller, you have the solid defense. Like, you're really missing, which I know it hurt them when they expected to get Tony Romo. Who knows if Tony Romo would have played any more than 4 games for him and getting injured as it is. But they're just missing. Look at the game case in point last year with the New England Patriots. If they had a quarterback, they'd probably beat the Patriots.
No, I agreed. Totally. I think he's a confident kid. He's got a lot of good tools. I think he's, again, like many, a work in progress. But B.O.B. is just the guy to help him, I'm gonna go with Mahomes here. I could also see Davis Webb, honestly. I think Davis Webb's going to be kind of an under-the-radar guy as well. 26, Seattle Seahawks. All of a sudden, Donnie, the Seattle Seahawks have a little bit of a conundrum back in the secondary. I mean, Earl Thomas possibly going to retire. Richard Sherman had some issues as well. They've had some issues in the secondary lately. I know they need offensive line help, but I think you got to go get a safety here. Go get some secondary help. Budda Baker, I think, would be a fantastic addition to this team.
Already from that area as well.
And he fits what they are all about. He fits, kind of that hard-hitting, Legion of Doom kind of guy. Legion of Boom, I'm sorry. I love Buda Baker here to the Seahawks. Just seems to fit.
Yeah, no, certainly does seem to fit with that. It would go hand in hand because you're trying to get that next level player there in the secondary. They're always looking to rebuild. They're strong, and again, from all assets there, unless you're going to go down, I think a guy, if somehow, some way, Jeff, like a Ross would fall to them for a wide receiver to give him another weapon, I would like that as well. But you can't go wrong when they just keep on stacking chips on that defense. It's what's built for them. As long as you have Russell Wilson, he's going to be able to make enough plays regardless of what you have around you at wide receiver, at tight end, at running back. The only other thing I could see, if somebody falls there that they like on the offensive line, to continue to rebuild that, because a lot of the year Russell Wilson was running for his life. Maybe an offensive lineman there would fit their needs as well.
Yeah, as Ed said, this isn't a particularly good offensive line group. So, I mean, I don't know that you have like an Orlando Pace out there. So I would try to shore up that, because I think in this draft there is a very rich secondary group. 27, I think you have to go and get a replacement for a Derek Johnson type. I'll stay home in this one. I'll go Charles Harris from Missouri. I think he's a guy that will fit what they're doing. I think
they have him way up there, a little bit higher. I agree with you on that. I mean, I know he's a good football player, but these mocks that have him as like the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th overall pick or 19th best player, I don't see it. I think he's going to fall to later in the first round from what I would do if I was a GM. I agree.
Yeah, and again, I mean, you don't got to go too far to find him. I mean, he's right over in Columbia, a guy that, I think will be a pretty good professional. Yeah, they've had some pretty good linebackers over the years. Obviously, Derek Johnson, Derek Brooks. They've had plenty of good. Again, Donnie, last year it was kind of interesting because for years they've been a really good defense. They struggled at times last year defensively.
Yeah.
Let's move on here. Got a couple more here. Dallas Cowboys, which. We all hate the Cowboys here, right, Donnie?
Sure. Oh, cool.
They need some help at the secondary. I don't know what point. I know they got Byron Jones a couple years ago out of UConn. I think Tre'Davious White makes sense here out of LSU. Obviously, DBU. I don't want to see him in our division, but I think this is where he'll go. I could see Adoree Jackson as well, maybe as a returner. They've had some issues with returners over the years, but it has to be secondary here, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what's funny? I just wrote it on the chat board knowing that this pick was coming up. Who bites on Jabril Peppers? He just smells to me like a Dallas Cowboy at this point, a Jerry Jones type of player, a splash player, an intriguing player, somebody that can try to plug in, maybe in those nickel situations that we talked about where you could play safety, a punt returner, a kick returner. He's one of those guys that just smells like a Dallas Cowboy to me, and I wouldn't put it past the Dallas Cowboys to snap somebody like him up.
Yeah, and it could make sense here. It's just what's his identity in the NFL. I think it's Tre'Davious White, or I think if you're going to go that intriguing player route, I think you go with Adoree Jackson, because I think he's still a guy that can help you on defense. He can, the Dwayne Harrises and the Lucky Whiteheads, that just isn't really working. You have to go out and get a returner. I think he's a guy that can really help you several different ways. Green Bay Packers, another team that is desperate for a little secondary help. They had
injury after injury after injury in that secondary last year. Sam Fields, we don't even know if he's coming back with the concussion. So
they had the local trash man out playing cornerback last year, I think, at times. I'm going to go with a hard-hitting player, a guy that I really liked at the University of Colorado. I'm going to go with Chidobe Awuzie here. This guy can play nickel. He can play really anywhere in the secondary. They had the 31st pass defense last year, Donnie. They have to go out and get a player. He's a guy out in Colorado that made waves last year. I really like this pick for them here.
Yeah, the same thing. I don't know if you had Jordan Lewis already off the board too. I was very impressed with him at Michigan last year as well. I actually thought, Jabril Peppers and everybody out there, the best cornerback on that team was Lewis. So I think that would be another spot-on pick for him in that spot too.
I'm looking at some of the Eagles may be getting him at 42.
There's a lot of those cornerbacks that are going to stack up in that second and third round, where if you wanted to maybe package a fourth and a fifth and jump back into the third round and grab somebody, I can see the Eagles going offensive weapon 1, second, third, fourth, whatever, just stacking up those defensive backs, because the Eagles do need defensive backs.
Yeah, I'm very high on Jordan Lewis. I mentioned on Twitter earlier, I really like him. I think he's going to be a really good player. 30, this is where John Ross goes, I think. And I know people are going to say, why would they take a receiver here? But listen, why not? I think he's going to fall. They've mentioned they do kind of like John Ross. Listen, I think people are going to kind of buy into the whole, issues injury-wise. I think maybe people just look at him as kind of just a speedster and nothing else. I think the Steelers, it will work. I could see them going quarterback here. I think Ian Cameron made a really good point about that. But I think we need to face the music, Donnie, that this Steelers team, a lot of names, but, your starting receivers, Darius Hayward-Bay at this point.
For who? Steelers?
Yeah. I mean,
what about Brown?
Bryant's had major issues. Well, other than Antonio Brown. I'm talking about the other side.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, I think you pair
Marcus Wheaton.
You pair John Ross and Antonio Brown. That'd be pretty sweet. Who knows where they'll go here? They could go in a multitude.
The Steelers have the best philosophy every single year to me. They sit tight. They don't like to trade up or down typically in the first round. They take the best player available, and just look at the way Kevin Colbert and that team's drafted over the last 15 years. It's phenomenal. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, if I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I wish we could sometimes just trade front offices just for draft day, because I know they don't spend usually a lot in free agency and bring guys in, but goddamn, do they draft really well typically.
Yeah, I mean, their needs, I think, are definitely, it'd be nice to get another linebacker, obviously, with Timmons and, some of those departures they've had over the last couple of years. But I think if you can get a complimentary target around Antonio Brown, which they've had those, but they've also had some issues with off-the-field issues. I mean, John Ross could be a really interesting player in this league, but I could see quarterback here. Maybe you're kind of looking into the future. Maybe you take a flyer out on a Deshaun Kaiser or on a Davis Webb.
Yeah, I mean, Big Ben's sending you all those signals, like, on Facebook and Twitter, and hey, I'm going to be back this year, which means he must be thinking about either he just likes the spotlight and wants to put you on, but that sounds like a quarterback to me that's on the back nine, quote unquote, looking to step away maybe in a year or two.
Yeah, which I could see. I mean, he's had a tough career, a long career,
injuries,
a lot of injuries. He's been a really tough player. By the way, Donnie, I do want to update everyone here. My play of the day on the show comes in the Boston Celtics. Get the job done. Boom, boom, boom.
What was the line on that closing at 7.5?
108.97. I got 7.5.
Didn't matter. Yeah.
It was 8 though in certain spots. Didn't matter though. If you had it, it won. So a nice performance. That game was close throughout. End of the third quarter, they were down 2 points, but really used a nice fourth quarter to get the job done. So Baltimore, they win. Boom.
Yep.
Bang!
Walked it off.
How about that, baby? Give me shit, Donnie. Come on.
Walk it off. What are we, 11:15 p.m., cashing tickets? I love it.
I love it. I love it. How about that? I love that. You guys know I've mentioned I love the Baltimore Orioles. I'm a big fan of this team. I back them every time they're at home. That's a nice way to win a baseball game. Good stuff, Baltimore. Good stuff, O's.
Yeah. Yep.
Somewhere Jimmy McNulty's smiling. Good stuff, baby. Donnie, let's finish it out here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
Atlanta Falcons. I think you have to go out and get an offensive guard here, don't you think? I think they made it apparent that they are attacking offensive guard. I think this is one of the more sure picks in the draft. If he's there, they will take him. I'm going to go Forrest Lamp, an offensive guard out of Western Kentucky.
Talk about some offense there. Yes, sir.
He's a mean son of a bitch from what I've heard. I think this is a great pick for them. You got to kind of protect. And we saw last year in the Super Bowl, they had some issues protecting the quarterback late in that game. I think he's a really nice fit for them at 31. Any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, just, I would technically agree with that. Was it Levitri as a guard there? Who's the other guard for Atlanta that they have?
I do not know off the top of my head.
They don't have very many reaches that you would need. They have the running back position. They have the quarterback. You want to keep them upright. They have a decent defense over there. Obviously, a defensive-minded head coach. So offensive line, you can't go wrong with drafting good offensive linemen if they're available in the first round.
I think you're talking about Chris Chester, maybe.
Is it Chester? Okay.
He retired, actually. So, he's definitely, there's a hole there. He was a great tackle, Lamp, in college, but from what I understand, they're looking to put him in as a guard. I think this is a great pick for them at 31. Last pick of the draft, Donnie. I'm going to go a little off the radar here. The New Orleans Saints, I had them taking Marshawn Lattimore in the first round of picks. I'm going to go with another secondary player here. They need to get better in the secondary, and I'm just going to say that. They were hideous last year against the pass. I'm going to go with a name that not a lot of people are talking about, but if it's any indication, we know UConn is a very good defensive team. Byron Jones has had a pretty good career. I'm going to go with one of his stables there. Obi Melifonwu.
Yeah, they left him on a corner a lot last year for UConn. I mean, I enjoyed bad football on offense, and UConn would give you that, but they did play some good defense, and that was their shutdown corner. Let him play on an island. Let him play one-on-one. So, yes, that would be a great pick because the Saints, they need some help over there on the defensive side of the ball. Record-breakingly bad defense.
You need one of those guys that – you remember when the Saints played the Eagles several years ago and Shelton Brown just laid out Reggie Bush?
Yep.
You need a guy like that. You need a guy like that, especially in this division. Some good quarterbacks, some guys that you're going to need to use kind of on the perimeter. I think he's one of those kind of waiting in the weeds just to pounce. I think he's a great fit and a guy that's really shooting up the draft boards out of UConn. The one good thing about UConn is they do seem to produce pretty good secondary players. Yep. Donnie, let's wrap it up here with a couple props. I know we still have plenty of people on here. I have a couple as well. If you watched, which I'll kind of recap everything. I gave out O.J. Howard under 8.5. I think he goes to either the Jets or to the Titans. I have him at the Titans. He's shooting up, I think, at plus 170. That's a pretty damn good bet if you ask me. What do you have, Donnie?
I have two prop bets here. I'm going to look at taking plus money in both of these, and we'll see if we can. I think one has an outside shot of just flat out pushing unless something awry goes, which again, the NFL draft, you can see it. First one I'm going to take is CMC. Christian McCaffrey under pick 8.5 plus 150. I think the hype is real. I think somebody's going to trade up maybe in that 8 spot and go grab him. So I'll take that CMC. Christian McCaffrey goes within the first 8 picks to cash a plus 150 on that.
Yeah, ticket. I could see him going to the Carolina Panthers, to be honest with you. I like
second one, Jeff. I have wide receivers. I'm going to go over 3 drafted in the first round. I think there's 3 surefire first rounders and then not much after that. So that one's probably going to be a push, but it's plus 135. The only indication I see is if somebody trades up and maybe takes a flyer on Samuel from Ohio State, that hybrid Percy Harvin type. I technically don't even know what his draft status would be since, is he a running back? Is he a wide receiver? I think he would land technically as a wide receiver. So if somebody comes up and grabs him at like 32, 31, or 30, it's a possibility to see that. But I definitely see 3 going. I'm just going to take a flyer saying with 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, that somebody might reach up and grab a guy like Samuel and hit that 4th number, which would send it over the total.
Yeah, it's going to be close. I mean, maybe a team takes a flyer out on Cooper Kupp, who out of Eastern Washington, who I think is going to be a good player in the NFL. A really good system player, obviously out there. Carson Wentz, he loves him. Big fan of Cooper Kupp. I'll tell you another guy to look out for: Zay Jones at Eastern Carolina. What a receiver he was. Just caught
productivity.
Really good, productive player. But yeah, I definitely think 3 is probably the max there, but I could see one of them sneaking in. Maybe, you never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the plus 170 on OJ Howard. I'll tell you what, Donnie, and I don't usually do this, but I laid a pretty big number. I laid 240 the other day. I believe 240 with Mitchell Trubisky being the first quarterback taken. That one's up to minus 420. So got pretty good. A pretty good value on that one. I'm also going to go, Donnie, with Jonathan Allen, draft position under 4.5. I think he goes 3. I think that's a good spot for him. We could even go 4 and we're a winner at plus 145. I think that's a good play.
Yeah.
That's
one
really
likes Taywan Taylor out there. I knew that. Taywan Taylor was Western Kentucky. But how about Carlos Henderson down there, Jeff? Where's he going to end up going down at La Tech?
He was one of my favorite players. I'll tell you another guy that I'm really, obviously Carlos Henderson, Taywan Taylor. I have a list here. I'm going to go through it quickly of some guys you want to look out for. I was a big Tanner Gentry fan out at Wyoming.
Yes, I like that kid. I do. Yes.
Yeah, he was a really good player. Another guy, Trent Taylor out of Louisiana Tech.
Yes.
You talk about a hard-nosed little guy that plays good football. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Cole Beasley.
Was the Conference USA title game? Was it Western Kentucky versus La Tech this year? If I remember,
he had a great game. Yeah, I'm a big Trent Taylor guy. I think he's really can fill that Cole Beasley role, kind of over the middle, a safety valve late in the possession or whatever you would call it. I like that a lot. Couple others I'm into, Donnie. I really like Carl Lawson for this Eagles team. If you can maybe somehow grab him, I think he's a guy that can immediately come in and help you. I mentioned Jordan Lewis. I'm a big fan of him as well.
Yes.
Did have some off the field issues, which are concerning, but he was, like you said, one of the better players they had on that defense. Gabe Marks out of Washington State.
Yes.
He's a guy that I think can help a team. Obviously a good system player as well. Out with Mike Leach, the mad scientist.
Caught a ton of balls.
Yep. Trevon Duvall from LSU. And DeMonte Casey, a cornerback out of San Diego State. Really good ball hawker. I like him a lot.
Casey, was he the Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, I believe, was he?
He was. They also had Calvin Munson, who was a really good linebacker as well. Don't forget about him. He's a good player as well. But, yeah, I mean, there are so many names late in the draft. I mean, second rounders, Juju Smith-Schuster, Zach Cunningham out of Vanderbilt.
Dory Jackson probably going to go in that early second round too,
Yeah, he's a guy that I have an eye on for the Eagles. I mean, Dede Westbrook, a guy that I think could be a really good slot player. Your boy Kareem Hunt out of Toledo. What a bruiser.
Yes. Frank Gore right there, part two.
What a bruiser. What a Ron Dane-esque type of player. I was a big Kareem Hunt guy. If you're looking for an offensive guard, maybe Dan Feeney out of Indiana. I think he's a guy that, it's hard to find good guards, especially in a poorer class as far as that's concerned. There's so many ways to go. Obviously, you got to draft for need. But one kicker I have my eye on, Donnie, Jake Elliott out of Memphis, set the record, I believe, for most points from a kicker, I believe, in college football history. He's a guy that I definitely like as well. Anyone else you've kind of missed maybe?
Look at that DJ One Mike, Marlon Mack. I mean, I'm almost ready. Like, I just want to go on a show tomorrow, and we're going to talk some Mac football and, Conference USA football. Like, just get my juices flowing there just for college football. So I'm excited, man.
One other guy that I think no one's talking about, like literally no one. Like, no one's brought him up. I've seen people drafting him in the 60s. Don't be surprised if Fabian Moreau out of UCLA, a cornerback who was really has not been talked about at all, he could be one of those players that could really steal the show in the NFL. I think he's a good cornerback, kind of a system that no one really bought into defensively, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
He's the guy that I've seen all over. I've seen as high as top 20. I've also seen him in the 60s. So could be one of those interesting guys. But that'll conclude our draft coverage. I love talking draft. We'll get into it more with the NBA.
We'll be on there tomorrow. I mean, we usually don't have a Thursday night show, but we're going to be on right after the 10th pick tomorrow. We're going to stay on at least to the Eagles pick, probably through 15. We'll talk about if any trades, any any hits in the first 10 picks, and then certainly be live on the air 10 through 15. Major League Baseball will be going on. NBA will be going on. NHL will be going on. So a lot to go over tomorrow. We're going to have some fun. Don't know how long the show will actually be. We'll go probably an hour or even less than that. But a lot to talk about and a lot of fun to be had. We'll see if some of these prop bets cash in and certainly pick out a couple more winners for you guys out there.
Chino Capascon, that's what I would say, the kid from Villanova. Those Samoan names I always have trouble with. Other than that, guys, we are out. Thanks to Ed Fag for coming on, catching up with us. We'll be back tomorrow during the NFL draft. We will talk about picks live. Join us then. Subscribe to SBR so you don't miss that. Everyone have a great night. We are out. Bye-bye.